Traditional weaving is an ancient craft in Peru. The indigenous Andean people have been creating woven garments and household items for over 2,000 years. The native language of the Andean people is Quechua, and originally it was an oral language, meaning it was only spoken, not written. So the people needed some instrument to save and pass down stories and history. The woven textiles became a means of communication between people and recording of knowledge. The yarn used in their weaving comes from sheep, llamas, or alpacas and is dyed using plants, insects, and minerals. Symbols woven into the fabric with these brightly colored yarns are meant to depict meanings that may vary from weaver to weaver or community to community. But before learning how to weave symbols into the fabric, it is necessary to master the basics of weaving. Let's give that a try today. So to practice our basic weaving skills, we're going to need the cardboard loom you found in your kit, the strong white cotton string, the colorful yarns that were included, and the yarn needle. You may also want to grab a pair of scissors to finish things off. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to set up our warp. And the warp is, we're going to use this white string for the warp. Can I find the end? Yep, here it is. The warp is the long pieces that we weave the colorful pieces in between. So I'm going to start with my warp about halfway down the back, and I'm going to thread it through one of those little notches. I'm going to bring it all the way across the back and into the next notch and go down and repeat this. Now my loom is just a little bit different than yours because it's a little wider. But if I was going to make my weaving about the same size as yours, I'd only use that many. And I'm going to take my 2 strings in the back that I started with, and I'm just going to tie them relatively tightly so that they stay in place. Now you're ready to begin weaving. So the yarn that we use to actually make the patterns with is called weft. So I'm going to unravel a piece, and it can get a little bit easier if we thread our yarn through the yarn needle and we begin weaving that way. So weaving is over, under, over, under. So I'm going to take my needle and do just that. I'm going to start under. I'm going to go over this next warp thread. I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under, and then I'm going to pull my thread across. Oops, and it came out, and that happens. And so what do? You just reweave. Or rather, you rethread your needle. Now when I come back, I want to do this the opposite way. So if I went under this string, it means that I need to come back and go over it. And then I go under, and I just reverse my pattern. I'm pulling my string all the way across. And I just keep going that way. And if I pull too tightly, you'll see my warp threads will come in and they'll pucker in on the side, and that's not what we want. So we want to make sure that we're keeping this not too tight, but not too loose. You might notice that each time I pull my yarn across, my weft across, that the next time, or the next thing that I do is push it down so that it meets. I don't want to be able to see the warp threads through my colorful weft yarn. Now maybe I decide I'm done with this color. So I'm going to finish this row, I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to leave a little tail here at the end and switch. And I'll set up my thread the same way for the next color. Let me
think I'm going to choose pink this time. And I want to make sure when I start my new color that I'm starting off where I left off before. So I stopped weaving with the blue yarn on this side, which means that's where I need to start my pattern with the pink. If you've made your weaving as long as you want it to be, then flip it back over and cut all of your warp threads in half. And then just gently pull them away from the loom. The first thing we want to do to finish it is take the ends, the tails of all of our weft threads. Do your best to pull them through your yarn needle and just carefully go down this last channel, we're going to call it, right here, and pull it through to hide it. If a little piece comes out at the end, you could just trim right there. And you'll repeat that for all of the tails of your weft yarn. The last step of our project is to tie off the ends. So we're going to take the two on the end, take one over top of the other, pull it back through, and pull it all the way up. Now take this that was on the bottom and repeat that with the next one over. Take it over, pull it through all the way to the top. Now, depending on what you want to do with this, you can either take a few threads and knot them together to create a fringe, or you could braid it if you wanted to make a bracelet with this and have a nice way to finish it off. Really, you can choose to do it anyway, but just making sure that your weaving doesn't fall apart.